I'm standing in my parents' garage on Christmas morning, staring at a BMW with a red bow the size of a beach ball, and all I can think about is the number 51,400. That's how much money I've sent my parents over the past 3 years. $51,400. I know the exact amount because I'm the kind of person who tracks every expense, who highlights bank statements in yellow marker, who loses sleep over budget spreadsheets at 2 in the morning. My sister Alice is crying. Not sad crying, the kind of crying you do when you've just won the lottery or gotten engaged, or apparently when your parents surprise you with a brand new BMW 330i on Christmas morning. She's 24 years old, works part-time at a boutique retail store, and she's currently pressed against our father's chest, sobbing like she's just survived a natural disaster. "I can't believe this is real," she keeps saying over and over. "I can't believe you did this." My mother has her phone out, filming every second. She's wearing a red cashmere dress I've never seen before, probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. And her face is lit up like she's watching her daughter accept an Academy Award. "We've been planning this for months, sweetheart," Dad says, his voice thick with emotion. He's always been a crier at big moments. Weddings, graduations, surprise car purchases. "You've been so responsible, taking on adult life. We wanted to do something special." Responsible. That word again. In my family, responsible is code for something else entirely, but I'm only just starting to understand what. I shift my weight from one foot to the other, and the movement makes my father finally remember I exist. "Diana, come see, isn't it beautiful?" I walk closer to the car, forcing my face into what I hope looks like a smile. It is beautiful. White exterior, leather seats that probably still have that new car smell, moonroof, the works. The window sticker is still partially visible in the windshield. I catch a glimpse of numbers before Alice bounces over and blocks my view, but I saw enough. $46,800. $46,800 for Alice. I wonder what they got me. "Your gifts are still inside," Mom chirps, touching my arm. "Don't worry, we didn't forget about you." The phrase "don't worry" is doing a lot of heavy lifting in that sentence. We parade back into the house. Mom, Dad, and Alice, who keeps turning around to look at the garage door like the car might disappear if she takes her eyes off it for too long. I'm trailing behind, the caboose of this happy family train, and I can't shake the feeling that I'm watching this scene from outside my own body. The living room looks like something from a magazine. 8-foot Christmas tree decorated in coordinated gold and silver ornaments. Expensive wrapping paper and elaborate bows on presents stacked artfully beneath it. Professional Christmas lights twinkling in every window. The whole display probably cost more than I spend on rent in a month. This is the home of people who called me 3 years ago and said they couldn't afford their mortgage payment. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Alice has already returned to opening her other presents, because apparently a $46,000 car wasn't enough. Designer handbag, AirPods Max, a Sephora gift set that looks like it costs more than my car insurance, jewelry, clothes with tags from stores I only walk past, never into. "Your turn, Diana," Dad says, gesturing to the 3 small packages still waiting under the tree. 3 packages wrapped in the same expensive paper as Alice's gifts, but somehow the bows look hastily tied, the edges of the wrapping poorly taped, like someone wrapped them at the last minute, or worse, like someone wrapped them without really caring if they looked nice. I pick up the first package. It's light, smaller than a shoebox. I peel back the paper carefully. I've always been a careful present opener, the kind who tries to save the wrapping paper for reuse, which should have been my first clue about how differently my family and I view money. Inside is a picture frame, generic plastic, the kind you'd find in the clearance bin at Target. The clearance sticker is still on it, bold and obvious. Originally $12.99, marked down to $4.99. "For your apartment," Mom says brightly. "I thought you could use something nice to display family photos." Something nice. A $5 clearance frame is something nice for the daughter who's been paying their mortgage for 3 years. "Thank you," I hear myself say. "This is great." The second package contains a candle. Bath and Body Works, vanilla scented. It has multiple markdown stickers layered on top of each other like rings in a tree trunk, documenting its journey through clearance purgatory. $18 to $12 to $7 to a final price of $3.49. For ambiance, Dad adds helpfully, like I might not understand the purpose of a candle. I'm holding the candle in one hand and the picture frame in the other, doing math in my head that I really wish I could stop doing. $5 plus $3.49 equals $8.49. $8.49 so far. There's one package left. It's the smallest, roughly the size and shape of... Well, I'm about to find out. I unwrap it slowly, even though part of me already knows what's coming. The same way you know the ending of a horror movie before the final scene. Socks. White athletic socks, 3-pack. The kind you'd grab at a gas station if you forgot to pack any for a trip. And there, in the corner where someone tried and failed to rip it off completely, is the price tag. $2.99. I hold up the socks, and the price tag catches the morning light like a tiny beacon broadcasting my worth to the entire room. $2.99. My mother puts down her coffee cup. My father stops mid-laugh at something Alice just said. Alice looks up from her phone, where she's already posting photos of her BMW to Instagram. For just a moment, no one speaks. Then my mother smiles, not a warm smile, but something else, something I'm only now recognizing for what it is, and says, "Be humble, Diana." She lets the words hang there for a beat, like she's delivering wisdom from on high. Each one receives what they deserve. My father chuckles, actually chuckles, like she said something amusing and profound rather than something devastating. Alice glances at me, then back at her phone. "Yeah," she murmurs, distracted, already typing a caption for her Instagram post. Probably something about being blessed. Each one receives what they deserve. I'm still holding the socks. $2.99 socks that someone couldn't even be bothered to remove the price tag from before wrapping. The daughter who's been sending them $1,400 a month for 36 months straight received clearance socks with the price tag still attached. The daughter who works part-time and lives at home rent-free received a BMW. I should say something. I should stand up, should explain, should defend myself, should do literally anything other than sit here in silence like a well-trained dog waiting for scraps from the table. Instead, I smile. "These will be perfect," I hear myself say. "Thank you." And just like that, Christmas morning continues around me, like I haven't just been valued at $11.47 by the people who raised me. I need to back up, because none of this makes sense without understanding how I got here. How a successful marketing director with a 6-figure salary ended up sitting in her childhood living room, holding discount socks, and feeling like she might shatter into 1,000 pieces. Let me take you back to January 2022. I was 25 years old and had just received the job offer of my dreams. Marketing director at a growing tech startup in San Francisco. Base salary, $95,000 a year, plus benefits, plus performance bonuses. After taxes and my 401k contribution, that worked out to roughly $6,200 a month in take-home pay. I called my parents the moment I signed the offer letter. $95,000, Dad had shouted into the phone, and I heard him relay the news to Mom in the background. "Mark your calendar, honey, we're having a celebration dinner." That dinner was 3 days later. Dad made his famous barbecue ribs, the recipe he'd spent 20 years perfecting, the one that had been the cornerstone of their restaurant's success. Mom made her apple pie from scratch, the one with the lattice crust that took her hours to weave properly. My little sister Alice came home from her college classes early so she could be there. We ate on the back patio, even though it was January and we had to drag out the space heater. Dad kept refilling everyone's wine glasses and making toasts. "To our successful daughter," he'd said, raising his glass for the 3rd time. "You've always been the responsible one, Diana. All those years of hard work finally paying off." The responsible one. Even then, that's how he saw me. Alice had looked up from her phone long enough to grin at me. "Maybe now you can finally get a decent car, sis. That Civic is basically prehistoric." She wasn't wrong. I'd been driving the same Honda Civic since my sophomore year of college. A reliable little car that I'd bought used for $3,000, but it was now showing its age. 150,000 miles on the odometer, a passenger door that stuck in cold weather, a mysterious rattle that my mechanic couldn't quite identify. I'd been dreaming of upgrading for years, making mental lists of features I wanted in my next car. Working air conditioning, a backup camera, doors that actually opened on the first try. I was thinking about it, I'd admitted, letting myself imagine walking into a dealership, test driving something new, something that was actually mine from the beginning. That's when Mom's expression changed. I've thought about this moment a lot over the past 3 years, replayed it in my mind, trying to pinpoint the exact second when everything shifted. Because there was a before and an after to that dinner, even though I didn't realize it at the time. "Honey," Mom started, using that careful tone I'd learned to recognize as a precursor to asking for something. "Now that you're doing so well financially, we were hoping we might talk to you about something." Dad set down his wine glass. Alice went back to scrolling through her phone, clearly already knowing this conversation didn't involve her. "The restaurant has been hit pretty hard," Dad said. "You know how it's been with the pandemic and everything. We've been trying to keep things afloat, but we've fallen behind on the mortgage payments." I felt my stomach drop. "How far behind?" 3 months, Mom said quietly. "We've been using credit cards to cover the gap, but the late fees are adding up, and we're worried about foreclosure." My parents' restaurant, Bella Vista Italian Kitchen, had been their dream for 18 years. A small place in a good neighborhood, known for authentic recipes and Mom's homemade desserts. I'd grown up in that restaurant, doing homework at corner tables, learning to fold napkins into fans, sneaking bites of tiramisu when Mom wasn't looking. The idea of them losing it, losing the restaurant and their home, was unthinkable. "How much do you need?" I'd asked. They'd looked at each other, one of those long married couple looks that communicates entire conversations without words. "The mortgage payment is $1,400 a month," Dad finally said. "If you could help with that temporarily, we could use the restaurant income to catch up on the back payments. Maybe 6 months, a year at most." $1,400 a month. I did the math quickly in my head. It was manageable. Not easy, but manageable. I'd still have enough for my own rent, my own bills, my own life. "Just until we get back on our feet," Mom added. "We'd never ask if we weren't desperate, Diana. You know that." I did know that. Or at least I thought I did. I agreed that night. Set up an automatic transfer the following week. $1,400, moving from my account to theirs on the 1st of every month. Like clockwork. Problem solved. Family crisis averted. Except it wasn't temporary. The first year, I barely noticed the financial strain. Sure, my savings account wasn't growing as fast as I'd planned. And yes, I had to be more careful with my spending. But I was helping my parents through a rough patch, being a good daughter, doing what families do for each other. That's what I told myself every time I transferred another $1,400, every time I said no to dinner with friends, every time I closed the browser tab showing new cars I couldn't quite afford. 6 months came and went. No mention of stopping the payments. I remember the exact day I realized it. June 30th. I was paying bills at my kitchen table, getting ready to click the button for the July transfer, when something made me pause. 6 months, I said out loud to my empty apartment. It's been 6 months. I picked up my phone to text my mother, typed out, "Hey Mom, just checking in on the restaurant situation." Then deleted it. Retyped it. Deleted it again. What was wrong with me? Why couldn't I just ask a simple question? Because I already knew what would happen. Mom would say they were doing better, but still needed just a little more time. Dad would thank me profusely for being so understanding. They'd make me feel guilty for even bringing it up, like I was being selfish for wondering when my temporary help would actually end. So I sent the transfer and didn't ask. But I started noticing things. In August, Dad posted photos on Facebook of a new commercial oven for the restaurant. A fancy one, all stainless steel and digital controls. The kind that probably cost $3,000, maybe $4,000. In September, Mom redecorated the restaurant's dining room. New tablecloths, new artwork on the walls, new menu covers embossed with gold lettering. In October, they took a weekend trip to Napa Valley, posted photos of wine tastings and scenic vineyard views, and every month, like clockwork, I sent them $1,400 for their mortgage. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe they'd gotten a business loan for the oven. Maybe the redecorating was necessary to attract customers. Maybe the Napa trip was a much-needed break after a stressful year. But late at night, lying in bed in my apartment with its second-hand furniture and broken air conditioning that I couldn't afford to fix, I'd do the math. $1,400 times 6 months equals $8,400. That's what I'd given them so far. $8,400 that was supposed to be temporary. The restaurant seemed fine. Better than fine, actually. Dad kept talking about how business was picking up, how they were having their best quarter in years. But nobody ever mentioned me stopping the payments. November came, Thanksgiving dinner at their house. The table was loaded with food, turkey, 3 kinds of stuffing, 6 different pies. Dad opened a bottle of wine that I knew cost at least $50 because I'd seen the same brand at the wine shop and laughed at the price. "Cheers to a good year," Dad said, raising his glass. "The restaurant's finally turning a corner. Best numbers we've had in a long time." I waited for it. For him to say, "Thanks to Diana's help, we're finally stable enough to take back our mortgage payments." He didn't say it. Nobody said it. We just ate turkey and talked about Alice's college classes and my job and the restaurant's success, and I sat there wondering if I was crazy for thinking this had been supposed to be temporary. December arrived. 1 year of payments, $16,800 total. I went car shopping one Saturday, not seriously, just browsing. Walked around a dealership lot looking at used cars in my price range, which had shrunk considerably since I'd started supporting my parents. A salesman approached. "See anything you like?" I was looking at a 3-year-old Honda Accord. Nothing fancy, but newer than my Civic, with reasonable mileage and a price tag of $18,000. "Maybe," I said. "I'm just looking today." "We've got great financing options," he said with practiced enthusiasm. "What's your monthly budget?" My monthly budget. After my rent, my parents' mortgage, utilities, groceries, student loans, and everything else, my monthly budget for a car payment was approximately $0. "I'm not ready to commit yet," I told him, and left. On the drive home in my rattling Civic, I cried. Not dramatic sobbing, just tears sliding down my face while I sat at red lights, and I couldn't even explain to myself exactly why I was crying. I was making more money than I'd ever dreamed of. I should have been thriving. Instead, I was living like I made minimum wage, and my family's lifestyle seemed to improve every month. Something was very, very wrong. But I didn't know how to fix it without looking like a terrible daughter. Year 2 was when I stopped being able to ignore what was happening. My life started to shrink. My friends would invite me to things, concerts, weekend trips, nice dinners, and I'd make excuses. Busy with work, not feeling well, maybe next time. After a while, they stopped inviting me, and I couldn't blame them. Who wants to be friends with someone who never says yes? Meanwhile, Alice's Instagram was a constant stream of brunch photos, shopping hauls, concert tickets, weekend getaways. She'd graduated college in May with a degree in communications and gotten a part-time job at an upscale boutique that paid maybe $12 an hour. She still lived at home, rent-free, with Mom doing her laundry and Dad filling her gas tank. "How does she afford all that?" I asked Mom during one of our weekly phone calls. I tried to keep my voice neutral, just curious, not accusatory. "Oh, you know Alice," Mom laughed. "She's always been good at finding deals. Plus, she's young and single. No real responsibilities yet." No real responsibilities. Unlike me, apparently, who'd somehow inherited the responsibility of keeping the entire family financially afloat. My car's air conditioning died in July during a heat wave. The repair estimate was $800. Money I didn't have because I just sent $1,400 to my parents and paid my own mortgage. I spent 3 days sweating in my apartment, trying to work from home with fans that just moved hot air around before finally putting the repair on a credit card. That same week, Dad posted pictures on Facebook of a new flat-screen TV they'd bought for the restaurant's bar area. I stared at that post for probably 10 minutes. New TV, probably $1,500. My air conditioning repair, $800 that I'd had to put on credit. Something was very wrong with this picture. But every time I thought about bringing it up, about asking when they planned to resume their mortgage payments, Mom would call and tell me how proud they were of my success, how grateful they were to have such a responsible daughter, how lucky they felt that I was doing so well and could help family when needed. The guilt was suffocating. Here I was earning more money than I'd ever dreamed of, and I was complaining about helping my parents keep their home? What kind of selfish daughter does that make me? So I kept quiet, kept sending the money, kept living like a broke college student while everyone around me prospered. By December, I'd paid them $33,600 over 2 years. $33,600 that was supposed to be temporary. This past year, year 3, was when the cognitive dissonance became impossible to ignore. In March, my parents announced they were expanding the restaurant's patio for summer. Expanding the patio while I was still paying their mortgage. I sat at their Sunday family dinner, eating Mom's lasagna, listening to Dad describe the contractor's plans. New deck, upgraded lighting, heat lamps for cool evenings, and thought I might be losing my mind. That sounds expensive, I ventured carefully. It is, Dad said cheerfully, but we've had such good revenue lately we can afford to invest in improvements. Good revenue. Could afford to invest. While I paid their $1,400 mortgage every single month. In April, I got promoted at work. Senior marketing director. Salary increased to $105,000 a year. My boss took me out to lunch to celebrate, talking about my bright future and leadership potential. I should have been thrilled. Instead, all I could think was, now they'll expect more. Summer came, and I couldn't help but notice details I'd been trying not to see. Mom's wardrobe had upgraded significantly. Real leather purses, cashmere sweaters, shoes that definitely didn't come from discount stores. Dad had started a bourbon collection, with bottles displayed on a shelf in their dining room, the kind of bottles that cost $100 or more. Their house looked better than it had in years. Fresh paint, new landscaping, updated light fixtures in every room. And every month, like clockwork, I sent them $1,400. The math was simple, and I couldn't avoid it anymore. If the restaurant was doing well enough for all these improvements, they didn't need my money. They wanted it. There's a difference. September came. I was 36 months into what was supposed to be a 6-month arrangement. $51,400. That's what I'd sent them total. Do you know what I could have done with $51,400? I could have bought a new car in cash. I could have made a down payment on my own house. I could have traveled to Europe, taken that photography class I'd always wanted. Built an emergency fund that would actually cover emergencies. Instead, I had $5,000 in credit card debt, a car that barely ran, and furniture I'd owned since college. In November, 1 month before Christmas, I finally let myself admit the truth. My parents weren't struggling anymore. They probably hadn't been struggling for 2.5 years. They'd just gotten comfortable with my money becoming part of their budget, allowing them to spend their own income on wants instead of needs. And I'd let them. I'd enabled this by being too afraid to set boundaries, too guilty to ask questions, too desperate to be seen as the good daughter. Thanksgiving dinner was particularly hard this year. The table was loaded with expensive food. Dad poured wine from bottles that cost more than my grocery budget for a week. Alice showed up in a new designer coat, talking about her plans to go skiing in Tahoe with friends. "How's work going, Diana?" Mom asked, serving me a third helping of stuffing like that was a substitute for actually caring about my answer. "Good," I said. "Busy." "She's being modest," Dad announced to the table. "Our Diana's a big shot now. Senior director?" He said it with pride, but I heard something else underneath. Relief, maybe, that his successful daughter could continue funding their lifestyle without complaint. That night I went home to my small apartment with its secondhand furniture and cried into my pillow. Not because I was sad, because I was angry. Angry at them for using me. Angry at myself for letting them. And angry that I still didn't know how to make it stop without destroying my family. Then came Christmas Eve. I loaded up my car with presents I'd bought for everyone. For Mom, a cashmere scarf from Nordstrom, $185 that made my stomach hurt when I swiped my credit card. For Dad, a leather wallet from Coach, $150. For Alice, the Dyson Airwrap she'd been posting about for months, $600. $935 in presents, nearly 15% of my monthly take-home pay. I drove to my parents' house with my trunk full of carefully chosen gifts and my bank account considerably lighter, feeling that familiar mix of excitement and financial anxiety that had become my holiday tradition. The house looked like something from a Christmas movie. Professional lights in every window, an enormous wreath on the door, decorations that probably cost more than I spend on rent. This was the house of people who'd called me 3 years ago and said they needed help with their mortgage. But here's the thing I was only just starting to understand. They hadn't been lying when they said they needed help. They just never stopped needing it because my help had become so convenient, so reliable, so taken for granted that they'd forgotten it was supposed to end. I pulled into the driveway behind a car I didn't recognize, probably one of Alice's friends, and sat there for a moment before going inside. Tomorrow was Christmas. Tomorrow, I'd open whatever small, thoughtless gifts they'd bothered to get me. Tomorrow, I'd watch Alice open present after present after present, rewards for simply existing while I'd been funding everyone's lifestyle. Tomorrow was going to hurt. I just didn't know how much. Christmas Eve at my parents' house always felt like stepping into a Hallmark movie. This year was no exception, except now I couldn't stop seeing the price tags on everything. The professional Christmas lights wrapped around every window and door frame, probably a $2,000 installation. The 8-foot Fraser fir in the living room with its coordinated gold and silver ornaments, at least $500, maybe more. The expensive wrapping paper and elaborate bows on presents stacked artfully under the tree, another couple hundred. Easy. I stood in the entryway holding my shopping bags full of gifts, doing math I wished I could stop doing. "Diana," Mom swept in from the kitchen wearing a red cashmere dress I'd never seen before. The fabric looked soft and expensive, probably from Nordstrom or Bloomingdale's. Easily $300. "We're so excited for tomorrow. Alice has been practically bouncing off the walls." I bet she has, I thought, but didn't say. The dining room table was set for dinner with the good china, the Lenox set that only came out for special occasions. Crystal wine glasses caught the light from the chandelier, which I noticed was new. When had they gotten a new chandelier? Dad emerged from the kitchen carrying a platter of appetizers. "There's my successful daughter." He kissed my cheek, smelling of expensive aftershave, and what I recognized as Macallan 18-year-old Scotch. That bottle cost at least $200. "Let me pour you some wine," he said, already reaching for a bottle. "We got this great Cabernet from Napa. The sommelier said it was one of their best vintages." I watched him pour wine that probably cost $60 a bottle and tried to remember the last time I'd bought wine that wasn't on sale at Trader Joe's. Alice bounced down the stairs in designer pajamas, the kind from Eberjey or Lake that cost more than my monthly electric bill. "Diana, did you see the garage?" My stomach dropped. "The garage?" "Dad's been working on something super secret out there for weeks. He won't let anyone look." She lowered her voice to a stage whisper that carried perfectly to where Dad stood grinning. "But I heard him on the phone with a dealership yesterday. Something about final paperwork and delivery dates." A dealership. The room tilted slightly, or maybe that was just me. "You didn't," I said to Dad, trying to keep my voice light, trying to sound like we were all in on a fun joke and not like I was about to scream. He grinned like a kid with a secret. "Let's just say tomorrow is going to be very exciting for a certain young lady." Alice squealed and actually clapped her hands. "I can't believe you might have actually done it." I smiled, nodded, took a long drink of the expensive Napa wine, and inside, something cold and hard settled in my chest. They were buying Alice a car from a dealership. Not some used Honda with 100,000 miles, but a real car. A new car, the kind of purchase that cost tens of thousands of dollars. The same parents who'd called me 3 years ago and said they couldn't afford their $1,400 mortgage payment were making major purchases. Dinner was ham and all the sides. scalloped potatoes, green bean casserole, freshly baked rolls that Mom had clearly spent hours on. Everything was perfect. Everything was expensive. Everything screamed, "We have money." "Best quarter we've had in 5 years," Dad announced, pouring himself more of that $200 scotch. "We're even thinking about opening a second location." I nearly choked on my potatoes. "A second location?" "Just exploring options," Mom said quickly. "Nothing definite, but the business has been so strong lately we'd be foolish not to consider expansion." Strong business, expansion plans, new chandelier, designer pajamas for Alice, expensive wine, scotch collection, professional Christmas lights, and me, sending them $1,400 a month because they supposedly couldn't afford their mortgage. After dinner, I helped Mom clear the table. Just the two of us in the kitchen, loading the dishwasher while Dad and Alice watched a Christmas movie in the living room. "Diana," Mom said, her voice taking on that careful tone I'd learned to dread. "I wanted to say something before tomorrow gets hectic." Here it comes, I thought. Another request for money. Another emergency that only I can solve. "We're so grateful for you," she continued, "for your help over the years. You've been such a rock for this family. Over the years. Not for that difficult period. Not during the temporary crisis. Over the years, like this was just the natural order of things. We got Alice something really special this year," Mom went on, rinsing a plate. "She's at that age where she needs encouragement, you know? Needs to feel like we believe in her as she starts adult life." I stood there holding a handful of silverware, trying to process what she was really saying. Alice, who lived at home rent-free, who worked part-time and spent her money on brunches and concerts and weekend trips, needed encouragement. But me? I was just the rock, the reliable one, the one who helped out because that's what responsible people do. "You understand, right?" Mom asked, and I realized she was waiting for my approval, my blessing to give my sister a car worth more than I'd sent them in 3 years. "Of course," I heard myself say. "Alice deserves something special." That night, lying in my childhood bedroom that hadn't been redecorated since I was in high school, I stared at the ceiling and did the math one more time. $51,400 over 36 months. A BMW estimated at $45,000 to $50,000. My Christmas shopping budget, $935 that I'd put on a credit card. My current credit card debt, $5,000. My savings account balance, $2,300. My parents' savings account balance based on their spending patterns, probably quite comfortable. At 1:47 a.m., I gave up on sleep. The smell of cinnamon rolls woke me at 7:30. Mom's famous Christmas morning tradition, homemade rolls with cream cheese frosting, coffee brewing, Christmas music playing softly through the house speakers. I lay in bed for a few extra minutes, not quite ready to face what I knew was coming. My phone showed 3 texts from friends wishing me Merry Christmas. Sarah had sent a photo of her new apartment in Seattle, the 1-bedroom with exposed brick and huge windows overlooking the city. The kind of place I could have afforded if I hadn't been supporting 3 other adults for 3 years. I got dressed slowly, jeans and a sweater, both from Target, both at least 2 years old. Brushed my teeth, pulled my hair into a ponytail, looked at myself in the bathroom mirror and barely recognized the tired woman looking back. When had I gotten so worn down? When had these dark circles under my eyes become permanent? When had I started looking older than my 28 years? Downstairs, everyone was already gathered around the tree in their pajamas. Mom and Dad in matching red sets that definitely came from somewhere expensive. Alice in those designer pajamas I'd noticed last night. And me, in old college sweats that had holes in the cuffs. Even our pajamas told the story of who mattered in this family. "Diana, finally!" Alice patted the spot next to her on the couch. "I've been dying to start opening presents." We started with stockings, like always. Mine contained a lottery ticket, some chocolate, and a travel-size lotion. I watched Alice pull out AirPods, expensive face masks, a Sephora gift card. Then we moved to the presents under the tree. Alice went first. She always went first, ever since we were kids. The baby of the family, the one everyone doted on, designer handbag. Oh my God, this is the one I wanted. AirPods Max. These are like $400. Premium skincare set. Mom, how did you know? Jewelry, clothes, gift cards. The pile of wrapping paper around her grew and grew. I watched my parents' faces as Alice opened each gift. They were beaming, radiating pure joy at their daughter's happiness. This was what it looked like when they loved someone, really loved them, when they wanted to show someone they were valued. Okay, Dad said, standing up with theatrical flair. He was holding something small in his hand, car keys on a BMW keychain that caught the Christmas tree lights. Alice, there's one more gift, but it's not under the tree. The scream Alice let out could have shattered windows. She launched herself at Dad, sobbing, actual tears streaming down her face. Are you serious? Are you serious right now? Go look, Mom said, her own eyes wet with emotion. We all paraded to the garage. Dad made a big show of having Alice close her eyes while he opened the garage door. The mechanical whir seemed to take forever. Okay, he said. Open. The BMW sat there like something from a commercial. White exterior gleaming under the garage lights. Enormous red bow stretched across the windshield. Luxury written into every curve and angle. Alice's knees actually buckled. She grabbed onto Mom's arm to steady herself, crying those full-body sobs of someone whose biggest dream has just come true. This is from both of us, Mom said, her arm around Alice's shoulders. You've been so responsible lately, so mature. We're so proud of you. Responsible, mature. Alice, who still lived at home rent-free, who worked part-time retail, who'd never once offered to help with any family financial obligations, that Alice was responsible and mature. I stood there, watching my baby sister touch her new BMW like it was made of glass, and felt something inside me go very still and very cold. How much did this cost? I asked. My voice sounded strange to my own ears, like it was coming from underwater. Don't worry about that, Dad said, waving his hand dismissively. That's not important. What's important is seeing our little girl happy. Not important. A car that cost more than most people's annual salary was not important. But my $1,400 a month was essential to their survival. Make it make sense. No, really, I pressed. I'm curious. How much? Mom shot me a look. Diana, it's Christmas. Let's just enjoy the moment. Alice was already sitting in the driver's seat, adjusting mirrors, taking selfies. This is literally the best day of my entire life, she announced to the world via Instagram story. We've been planning it for months, Mom said proudly, turning back to me. Saving up, researching, finding the perfect one. Saving up for months, while I paid their mortgage, thinking they were financially struggling. The cold feeling in my chest spread outward, numbing my fingers, making it hard to breathe. Diana, Dad called. Your gifts are still under the tree. Don't want to forget about those, right? My gifts. Plural, which was optimistic. Back inside, I sat cross-legged by the tree while Alice continued gushing about her car in the background, calling friends, planning road trips, her joy filling every corner of the house. 3 packages with my name on them, much smaller than Alice's pile, wrapped in the same expensive paper, but the bows looked rushed, the edges poorly taped. I opened the largest one first, taking my time, even though some part of me already knew this wasn't going to be good. A picture frame, generic plastic, the kind from the clearance end cap. And there, bold as day, because no one had bothered to remove it, was the sticker, originally $12.99, marked down to $4.99. For your apartment, Mom said brightly. I thought you could use something nice to display your photos. Something nice. A $5 clearance frame was something nice for the daughter who'd sent them $51,400. Thank you, I said. My voice sounded robotic. This is great. Second package. Heavier. I unwrapped it slowly. A candle. Bath & Body Works vanilla. With not 1, not 2, but 4 markdown stickers layered on top of each other like archaeological evidence of its journey through clearance hell. 18 hours, 12 hours, 7 hours, $3.49, $3.49. For ambiance, Dad added helpfully. I set the candle down next to the picture frame. $8.48 so far. One package left. I knew what it was before I even touched it. The size, the weight, the shape of it. I unwrapped it anyway, because what else was I going to do? Storm out? Make a scene? Ruin Christmas? Socks. White athletic socks, 3-pack. The kind you grab at Walmart when you've forgotten to do laundry. And there, in the corner, partially torn but still clearly visible, was the price tag. $2.99. I held them up. The price tag caught the morning light like a little flag of my worth. $2.99. The room went quiet. Even Alice stopped mid-Instagram caption to look over. I sat there holding discount socks with the price tag still attached and waited for someone to say something. An apology, an explanation, anything. Instead, my mother smiled. Not a warm smile, not an embarrassed smile, something else entirely. Be humble, Diana. She let the words hang there like she was imparting great wisdom. Each one receives what they deserve. My father chuckled, actually chuckled like this was amusing, like his daughter who'd been paying his mortgage for 3 years deserved $2 socks while her sister deserved a BMW. Alice glanced at me, then back at her phone. Yeah, she murmured, already distracted by comments on her car photos. Each one receives what they deserve. I should have said something. Should have stood up. Should have explained that I'd been paying their mortgage for 3 years. Should have asked why Alice deserved $46,000 while I deserved $11.47. But I didn't. I smiled. These will be perfect, I heard myself say. Thank you so much. And just like that, Christmas continued around me. I made it through the rest of Christmas Day on autopilot. Helped cook dinner, mashed the potatoes, made the gravy, smiled through every conversation about Alice's car, the leather seats, the sound system, the plans for a road trip to Tahoe. Listened to Mom take phone calls from relatives. We just wanted to do something special for Alice. She's been working so hard she deserves something nice. Working so hard at her part-time retail job that barely covered her shopping budget. Ate turkey and stuffing and tried not to calculate how much this meal cost versus what I'd been living on for 3 years. Watched a Christmas movie with the family. Pretended everything was fine. At 9 p.m., I excused myself to my childhood bedroom. Long day, I'm exhausted. Of course, honey, Mom said, barely looking up from showing Aunt Karen photos of Alice's car. Sleep well. I didn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to my family's laughter drift up from downstairs. At 1:17 a.m., I got up and got dressed. Jeans, sweater, boots. I packed my suitcase quietly, methodically. The Christmas gifts they'd given me went in too. Might as well get some use out of those $2 socks. Then I went to Dad's home office. The door creaked slightly when I opened it, and I froze, listening for sounds of anyone waking up. The house stayed quiet. I flipped on the desk lamp and opened the filing cabinet where I knew Dad kept financial documents. It took me less than 5 minutes to find what I needed. My bank statements from the past 3 years. I'd kept copies of everything. Every single automatic transfer, highlighted in yellow marker. I'd been tracking it all, some part of me knowing that someday I might need proof. 36 statements, showing 36 transfers of $1,400 each, plus the extra emergencies. Dad's dental work, $600, Mom's car repair, $900. Restaurant equipment, $400, on and on. Total, $51,400. I paperclipped them all together. Used Dad's fancy letterhead, the expensive stuff with the embossed logo, to write a note. My hand was steady. That surprised me. I thought I'd be shaking, but I felt calm, clear, like waking up from a 3-year fog. I wrote, if you have $46,800 for Alice's car, I assume you can handle your own mortgage. The transfers stop now. Diana, I left the stack of statements on the kitchen counter, right next to the coffee maker where I knew Dad would see it first thing in the morning. He was always up by 6, always made coffee before anyone else woke up. This would be waiting for him. I took one last look around the kitchen. The new chandelier, the expensive appliances, the wine rack full of bottles that cost more than my grocery budget. This was the house of people who'd told me they couldn't afford their mortgage. I walked back upstairs, grabbed my suitcase, and headed for the front door. My keys were loud in the quiet house. I winced with each step, expecting someone to wake up, to call out, to stop me. No one did. I loaded my suitcase into my Honda Civic, 180,000 miles now, rattling worse than ever. But mine. All mine. Paid for with my money, not borrowed from family. It was 2:17 a.m. when I backed out of the driveway. The house was dark, peaceful, everyone sleeping soundly, not knowing that everything was about to change. I turned off my phone before I even reached the highway. 47 missed calls and 63 text messages were waiting for me when I finally turned it back on the next afternoon. But in that moment, driving away at 2 a.m. on Christmas night, all I felt was light. Like a weight I'd been carrying for 3 years had finally lifted off my shoulders. I turned on the radio. A classic rock station was playing Freebird, and I laughed, actually laughed, at the cliché of it all. But God, it felt good to be free. I slept until noon the day after Christmas. The deep, dreamless sleep of someone who's finally put down a burden they'd been carrying too long. When I woke up, I lay in bed in my small apartment, with its secondhand furniture and thrift store decorations, and realized something had changed. The apartment looked the same, but I felt different, lighter, more solid somehow, like I'd been a ghost for 3 years and had suddenly become real again. My phone sat on the nightstand where I'd left it, still powered off. I made coffee first, sat at my tiny kitchen table, looked out the window at the ordinary December day happening outside, people walking dogs, cars passing by, life continuing on like nothing had changed. Then I turned on my phone. It exploded with notifications. 37 missed calls, 63 text messages, 12 voicemails. I started with the voicemails in chronological order. A documentary of my family's escalating panic. 7:18 a.m. Mom, tearful, confused. Diana, honey, we found your note and we're so confused. Please call us. We need to talk about this. This isn't like you. 8:03 a.m. Dad, controlled, reasonable. Diana, I understand you're upset about the gift situation. Perhaps we should have been more thoughtful, but leaving on Christmas night without talking to anyone? That's concerning behavior. Call me when you get this. 8:47 a.m. Mom, panicking. Where are you? Are you safe? Diana, you're scaring us. Please call us back. We're worried sick. 10:23 a.m. Alice, angry. Diana, what the fuck? Mom is literally crying her eyes out. Dad can't eat breakfast. All because you're jealous of my car? This is so incredibly selfish. You need to call them back right now. Jealous, selfish, classic Alice. 11:15 a.m. Dad, firm, almost cold. Diana, this tantrum needs to stop. You're a grown woman. We gave you perfectly nice gifts. If you're this upset about money, we need to have a serious conversation about your priorities. Family should come before dollars and cents. The voicemails continued, each one a variation on the same themes. They were worried about their mortgage payment. I was being unreasonable for having boundaries. This wasn't like me, to stand up for myself. I needed to call immediately and make this right. Not once did anyone say, maybe we were wrong. Not once did anyone say we took advantage of you. Not once did anyone apologize. The texts were even more revealing. Dad, we need to talk immediately. This behavior is unacceptable. Mom, I don't understand where this anger is coming from. After everything we've done for you. Alice, you've ruined Christmas. Hope you're happy. Mom hasn't stopped crying. Alice, again. Mom had to take a Xanax and lie down. Great job breaking up the family over money. Alice, third time. We all know you make good money. Why are you being so stingy about helping family? Stingy. About $51,400. I set the phone down and poured more coffee. Then I did something I hadn't done in 3 years. I opened my laptop and looked at car dealerships. The dealership was quiet on December 26th. Most people were home with family, returning unwanted gifts, nursing hangovers from Christmas parties. I was buying myself a car. The salesman's name was Robert. Mid-50s, kind eyes, obviously sensing I wasn't a tire kicker. "What are you looking for today?" "Something reliable," I said. "Good gas mileage, safety features, nothing fancy. My budget is around $25,000. He showed me a used Honda CR-V. 3 years old, 40,000 miles, clean history, $24,000. I test drove it. The steering was smooth. The air conditioning worked. All the doors opened on the first try. The backup camera actually functioned." "I'll take it," I said. Robert blinked. "Don't you want to think about it? Maybe bring someone to look at it with you?" "No," I said. "I'll take it." My trade-in was worth $2,000. Apparently my Civic's loyalty had some value despite the rattling and sticking doors. I had enough saved for a down payment of $5,000. That left $17,000 to finance. Monthly payment, $380. For the first time in 3 years, I could afford it. I drove off the lot in my new-to-me CR-V with working everything, and I cried. Not sad tears, happy ones, proud ones. This car was mine. I'd earned it, and nobody could take it from me. My phone rang as I was parking at my apartment. Mom's number. I let it ring. Then Dad called. I let it ring. Then Alice. I blocked all 3 numbers. That evening I did something else I hadn't done in 3 years. I ordered dinner, real dinner from a nice restaurant. Salmon, roasted vegetables, a side salad. $32 with tip. I ate it slowly, sitting at my second-hand kitchen table, in my small apartment, in my life that I was finally living for myself. My phone buzzed with an email. Subject line, family emergency. It was from Aunt Karen, my mom's sister. "Diana, I don't know what happened, but your mother called me this morning in tears. She says you left on Christmas night without explanation and won't return their calls. I'm not taking sides. I just want to make sure you're okay. Please let someone know you're safe." "Love, Aunt Karen," I typed back. "Aunt Karen, I'm safe. I'm fine. I left because I needed to set boundaries with my parents. I've been paying their mortgage for 3 years, $51,400 total. This was supposed to be temporary but became permanent. Meanwhile, they bought Alice a 46-800 BMW. For Christmas, they gave me $11 worth of clearance items. I'm not angry. I'm just done. Love, Diana." Her response came 30 minutes later. "Oh, honey, I had no idea. You did the right thing. I went to bed that night in my apartment that I could now afford to heat properly, in my life that I was now living for myself, and slept better than I had in 3 years. Tomorrow, I'd wake up and keep $5,100 of my own paycheck. Tomorrow, I'd start building my own life instead of subsidizing everyone else's. Tomorrow, I'd figure out what Diana actually wanted instead of what everyone else needed from her. But tonight, I just slept. And it was enough. January arrived with cold rain and consequences. I spent New Year's Eve alone in my apartment, which sounds sad but wasn't. I ordered Thai food, opened a bottle of wine I'd actually wanted to buy instead of whatever was on sale, and watched the ball drop on TV while sitting on my second-hand couch. At midnight, I raised my glass to myself. "To boundaries," I said to my empty living room, and to never being someone's ATM again. My phone stayed blissfully silent. All family numbers blocked. No guilt trips, no manipulation, no emergencies that only I could solve. The first of the month came and went. For the first time in 36 months, I didn't transfer $1,400 to my parents. Instead, I paid off my credit card in one payment. $5,000, gone. The balance on my screen changed to 0, and I stared at it for a full minute, hardly believing it was real. Then I did something radical. I started saving. $1,400 a month, the exact amount I'd been sending them, went straight into a high-yield savings account. Money that was mine, for my future, for my emergency fund, for my life. By the end of January, I had furniture delivered. A real couch from West Elm, not some curb find from Craigslist. A dining table from CB2 with actual chairs that matched. Artwork for my walls from a local gallery. My apartment started looking like a place where a successful marketing executive lived, not a broke college student. My friend Sarah came over in late January and stopped dead in the doorway. "Diana," she said slowly. "What happened? Did you rob a bank?" I laughed. "Better. I stopped paying my parents' mortgage." I told her everything over wine and takeout. The 3 years of payments. The BMW for Alice. The $2 socks. The 2 a.m. escape. When I finished, Sarah was quiet for a long moment. "I knew something was wrong," she finally said. "You kept turning down everything, looking exhausted, wearing the same clothes. I thought maybe you had a gambling problem or something. Just a family problem. How do you feel now?" I thought about it. Light, angry sometimes, sad sometimes, but mostly free. "Good," Sarah said firmly. "You did the right thing." Meanwhile, 10 miles away, my family was discovering what happens when the safety net disappears. I learned this from Alice, who found a way to reach me despite the blocked numbers. She showed up at my office on a Tuesday afternoon in mid-February. My assistant buzzed me. "Diana, there's an Alice Morrison here to see you. She says she's your sister." My first instinct was to say I wasn't available. My second instinct was curiosity. "Send her up," I said. Alice looked different. Thinner. Tired. Her clothes were from Target, not designer stores. Her hair, usually perfectly styled, was pulled back in a simple ponytail. "Before you kick me out," she said immediately, standing in my office doorway, "I'm not here to ask for money or guilt you into anything. I just need 5 minutes to tell you what's happening." I gestured to the chair across from my desk. 5 minutes. She sat down, clutching her purse like a lifeline. "They had to give the car back." I felt my stomach drop despite myself. "What?" "The BMW. They couldn't make the payments. It got repossessed 3 weeks ago. Of course. Of course they'd financed it. Probably counting on my continued mortgage payments to make their budget work." "Alice, I'm sorry, but I'm not here to make you feel bad," she interrupted. "I'm here because I need you to know something. I really, truly didn't know about the mortgage payments. They told me the car was from restaurant profits they'd been saving. I believed them because I wanted to believe them." I studied her face. She looked genuine. Miserable, but genuine. "I also got fired from the boutique," she continued. "Budget cuts. And with no car, I can't get to most places that are hiring. I've been taking the bus, applying everywhere. I got a job at Target. 40 hours a week, $16 an hour." "That's good," I said carefully. "Honest work." "It's hard work," Alice said. "My feet hurt all the time. Customers yell at me. The pay barely covers anything. But I'm doing it. I moved in with 2 roommates in a crappy apartment. $600 a month rent. I'm learning to cook actual food instead of just eating out. I'm learning what life costs." She paused and her voice got quieter. "I'm learning what you were living like while we lived well." I didn't know what to say to that. "They're going to lose the house," Alice said. "They're 3 months behind on the mortgage. The bank sent foreclosure papers. They have until the end of March." 3 months behind. Without my $1,400 a month, they'd immediately defaulted. "What do they want me to do about it?" I asked. "They haven't asked me to contact you," Alice said. "They know you blocked them. They know they fucked up. Or at least they're starting to realize it." "Then why are you here?" Alice looked me straight in the eye. "Because I wanted to apologize. For my part in all this. For never asking questions. For enjoying the benefits while you suffered. For being spoiled and entitled and blind." It was the most mature thing I'd ever heard her say. "I accept your apology," I said. "But Alice, I'm not helping them. You understand that, right?" "I do," she said. "And I don't think you should. They need to figure this out themselves. We all do." She stood to leave, then paused at the door. "For what it's worth," she said, I'm proud of you. For getting out. For standing up for yourself. It's inspiring, actually. I'm trying to do the same thing now." After she left, I sat at my desk for a long time, staring at nothing. March ended. April began. My savings account grew. I went to concerts with friends, took a long weekend in Santa Barbara, bought clothes that weren't from clearance racks. I was living the life I'd earned. Then, on April 20th, Aunt Karen called my work line. "Diana, I'm calling from the hospital. Your father had a heart attack." The world tilted. He's stable. They put in 2 stents. He's going to be okay, but he needs rest and lifestyle changes. Your mother asked me to let you know." Why didn't she call me herself? She didn't think you'd answer. She was right. "Can you tell her I'm glad he's okay?" I said. "Why don't you tell her yourself? She's right here." Before I could protest, I heard rustling, then my mother's voice. "Diana?" She sounded exhausted, defeated, older. "Aunt Karen told me," I said. "I'm glad Dad's going to be okay." "Thank you." A pause. "Diana, I'm not calling to ask for anything. I know I have no right to ask you for anything ever again. I just wanted you to know about your father, in case you still cared." "Of course I care. I'm not heartless." "I know you're not," her voice cracked. "I'm the one who was heartless, taking advantage of your kindness for 3 years, treating you like a bank account instead of our daughter." I didn't know what to say to that. "The house is gone," Mom continued. "We're moving in with your Uncle Jim and Aunt Margaret next week. The restaurant closed last month. We couldn't afford the commercial rent anymore. Mark got a job managing an olive garden. I'm doing bookkeeping for some local businesses. The mighty had fallen. I'm sorry you're going through this," I said, and meant it. "Don't be. We did this to ourselves." She took a shaky breath. "Diana, I don't expect you to forgive us. I don't expect you to help. I just want you to know that we understand now. We understand what we did to you, and we're ashamed." After we hung up, I sat in my office with my head in my hands. I didn't feel victorious. I just felt sad. Sad for the family we could have been. Sad for the relationship we'd destroyed. Sad that it had taken them losing everything to see me as a person instead of a resource. 2 weeks later, a certified letter arrived at my apartment. Inside was a handwritten letter on plain notebook paper. Not Dad's fancy business stationery, just regular paper, slightly wrinkled. "Dear Diana, we're not writing to ask for anything. We're writing to apologize. We took advantage of your kindness. We told ourselves the help was temporary, but we knew after the first year that we could have resumed the mortgage payments. We chose not to because your money allowed us to live beyond our means. We chose comfort over integrity. The car for Alice was unconscionable. We spent your sacrifice on a luxury none of us could afford. The Christmas gifts were insulting. You deserved better. You've always deserved better than what we gave you. We don't expect forgiveness. We don't expect relationship restoration. We understand if you need space forever, and that's fair. We're writing simply to say, you were right, we were wrong, and we're deeply, truly sorry. If someday you want to talk, we'll be here. If not, we understand. With love and regret, Mom and Dad." I read it 3 times. Then I folded it carefully and put it in a drawer. Maybe someday I'd be ready to respond. Maybe someday I'd be ready to rebuild something with them. Something new and healthy with real boundaries. But not today. Today, I had a life to live. September arrived with cooler weather and a text from Alice. "I know I have no right to ask, but can we have coffee? No agenda. Just sisters. You can say no. I thought about it for 3 days. Then I replied, Saturday 2 p.m., Starbucks on Market Street. She was already there when I arrived, sitting at a corner table with 2 cups in front of her. "I didn't know what you'd want, so I got you a latte and an Americano. Take whichever." I took the latte and sat down. Alice looked good, healthy. Her clothes were still Target, but she wore them with confidence now. Her hair was simpler but suited her better. She looked real. "How are you?" she asked. "Good. Really good, actually. I can tell you look. She searched for the word. Peaceful. We made small talk for a few minutes. Weather, work, safe topics. Then Alice said, I've been in therapy, talking about family dynamics, codependency, entitlement. Turns out I have a lot to unpack. Welcome to the club. She laughed, but it was a sad sound. I got promoted to team lead at Target. $19 an hour now. And I'm proud of myself? Is that weird? That's not weird at all. That's growth. I'm paying all my own bills now. Rent, phone, groceries, everything. It's scary and hard, and I'm exhausted all the time. She paused. But it feels good. Like I'm finally becoming an actual adult instead of playing pretend. Good for you, Alice. I mean that. Mom and Dad moved out of Uncle Jim's place last month. They have a small apartment now in Daly City. Dad's health is better. He lost weight, stopped drinking. Mom volunteers at a food bank on weekends. They're different people, humbler. I sipped my latte, waiting. They ask about you every time I see them, Alice continued. But they don't push. They don't ask me to convince you to talk to them. They're respecting your boundaries. That's new for them. A lot is new for them. Alice met my eyes. Diana, I'm not here to advocate for them. I'm here for me. Because I miss my sister. Something in my chest loosened slightly. I miss you too, I admitted. Can we try again? Alice asked. Being sisters? Without all the toxic patterns? Slowly? With boundaries? Whatever you need? I thought about it. About the Alice who'd laughed when I got $2 socks. About the Alice who'd called me selfish and jealous. About the Alice who'd benefited from my sacrifice without questioning it. And about this Alice, sitting across from me now, paying her own bills, doing her own work, trying to grow. Maybe, I said, slowly, one coffee at a time. Alice smiled, and it was genuine. I'll take it. We talked for another hour, about books, movies, her job, my recent promotion to VP of Marketing. Normal sister stuff, no drama, no financial entanglements, no guilt trips. Just two women, learning how to be family in a healthier way. When we said goodbye on the sidewalk, Alice hugged me. Thank you for giving me a chance. Thank you for doing the work to deserve one. I watched her walk to the bus stop. Still no car, still taking public transit, still living within her means, and felt something I hadn't felt about my family in years. Hope. December 25th, 1 year after the worst and best Christmas of my life. I woke up in my apartment, now with all new furniture, artwork I loved, plants that were actually alive, and made coffee in my fancy machine. My boyfriend Michael was coming over at noon. We'd been dating for 4 months, taking things slow, both of us cautious people who'd learned that boundaries matter. He was kind, stable, financially independent, and he thought my family story was badass instead of difficult. You saved yourself, he'd said when I told him everything. That takes real courage. I'd bought a small turkey breast and all the fixings. My first Christmas hosting, just the two of us. Simple, peaceful, mine. At 11 a.m., the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. Michael wasn't due for another hour. I opened the door to find a package on the welcome mat. Small box wrapped in plain brown paper, no return address. Inside was a card in my mother's handwriting. Diana, we're not asking for contact. We respect your boundaries. But we wanted you to know, we're stable now. Paying rent on time, no debt, living within our means. Alice is thriving. We see her weekly. She's become the person she was meant to be. We've learned to appreciate what we have instead of always wanting more. Thank you for teaching us that lesson, even though we fought it. We're proud of you, not for what you could give us, but for who you are. Merry Christmas. Mom and Dad, beneath the card was a photo album. Small, simple, clearly homemade. I opened it. Pictures of me through the years. Diana's first day of kindergarten, gap-toothed smile. Diana's middle school graduation. Diana's high school prom, Diana's college acceptance letter, Diana's first day at her first real job, handwritten captions under each photo in Mom's careful script. The last page had a recent photo, I didn't even know they had it, of me at a work event, accepting an award. I looked confident, happy, free. Under it, Mom had written, "The daughter who saved herself and accidentally saved us all." I sat on my couch, holding the album, crying. Not sad tears, not angry tears, just complicated tears. The kind you cry when something painful might someday become something bearable. Michael arrived at noon with wine and flowers. "You okay?" he asked, seeing my face. I showed him the album. "Do you want to reach out to them?" he asked gently. I thought about it. "Not yet, but maybe someday." "That's fair." We cooked together, ate turkey, and talked about our plans for next year. I told him about Alice and our monthly coffee dates, about setting boundaries with family while still leaving room for hope. "You're pretty wise for 28, he said. "Trauma will do that to you." After dinner, I stood at my window looking out at the city lights, this apartment, this life, this version of me who knew her worth and defended it. 1 year ago, I'd driven away at 2 a.m., leaving behind $2 socks and $51,000 in sacrifice. Now I had savings, stability, relationships built on respect instead of obligation. I had a sister who was learning to stand on her own feet, parents who were learning what it meant to live with integrity. I had myself back. People ask if I regret cutting them off. I don't. They lost a house. I found my backbone. They lost their financial cushion. I found my worth. They lost the daughter who said yes to everything. I found the woman who could say no. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for people you love is let them face the consequences of their choices, even when those people are family, even when it breaks your heart. Especially then. I'm not the woman who stood in that garage holding $2 socks, calculating her worth and clearance prices. I'm not the ATM daughter anymore. I'm just Diana, and that's enough. That's more than enough. Maybe someday we'll have coffee, all 4 of us. Maybe we'll build something new from the ashes of what we destroyed. A healthier family with boundaries and respect and honesty. Or maybe we won't. And you know what? I'm okay either way, because I finally learned the most important lesson. You can love people from a distance. You can want good things for family without sacrificing yourself. You can care about people while still protecting your own peace. That's not selfish. That's survival. That's self-respect. And after 28 years of being the responsible one, the helper, the giver, the doormat, I've earned the right to put myself first. I picked up my phone and texted Alice. "Merry Christmas. Coffee next Saturday?" Her response came immediately. "Yes. I'll bring photos from my trip to Portland. First vacation I paid for myself." I smiled. Small steps, slow progress, boundaries intact. That's how you rebuild trust after it's been broken. That's how you love family without losing yourself. That's how you survive and eventually maybe thrive. Michael came up behind me at the window and wrapped his arms around my waist. "What are you thinking about?" "How different this Christmas is from last year." "Better?" I thought about it. Last year I had a whole family gathered around me, but I'd never felt more alone. This year I had just one person, and I'd never felt more at peace. "So much better," I said. We stood there together, looking out at the city, at the life I'd built for myself, at the future I was finally free to create. And for the first time in 3 years, I wasn't calculating costs or feeling guilty about wanting things or worrying about the next family emergency. I was just living. And it was enough. It was more than enough. It was everything. 6 months later, I got another letter, this time from Dad. "Diana, I wanted you to know that I've been going to therapy. Dealing with my heart attack made me realize I needed to look at the stress I'd been carrying and the stress I'd been causing. My therapist helped me understand that I'd been using you as a solution to problems I'd created, that asking for temporary help and never ending it was manipulation, even if I didn't want to admit it at the time. I'm learning about financial responsibility, about living within my means, about being honest about what I can and can't afford. I'm 61 years old and learning things I should have known at 30. Better late than never, I suppose. Your mother and I are stable now. Small apartment, modest income, but it's ours. We're not rich, but we're honest. That counts for something. I'm writing because I want you to know. I understand now why you left. I would have done the same thing. I'm proud of the woman you've become. Not because of your success or your salary, but because you knew when to walk away. That takes strength I'm not sure I have. If you ever want to talk, I'm here. If you don't, I understand that too. Love, Dad. Folded the letter and put it with the first one. Maybe someday I'd respond. Maybe someday I'd sit down with them and have an honest conversation about what happened, what we all learned, how we could move forward. Maybe someday we'd be family again, in some new configuration that worked for everyone. Or maybe this was it. Letters in a drawer, occasional updates through Alice, love from a safe distance. I didn't know yet, but here's what I did know. I was okay either way. I'd learned to build a life that didn't require their approval or their presence. I'd learned that I could be a good person without being a doormat. I'd learned that saying no doesn't make you selfish. It makes you honest. I'd learned that the most important relationship you have is with yourself. And I'd finally learned to choose me. Not over family, not instead of family, just me, standing up for myself, believing I deserved better, and refusing to accept less. That's the gift I gave myself that Christmas morning when I walked away. And it's the gift that keeps on giving. Every day, I wake up in my beautiful apartment that I can afford. Every day, I drive my reliable car that I chose. Every day, I live a life that's truly mine. And every day, I'm grateful to the woman I was 1 year ago, tired, taken advantage of, holding $2 socks, for finally finding the courage to leave. She saved me. She saved all of us. And I'll never forget her.